Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we've got a couple of things to talk about, one of which I'm getting quite a lot of stuff about it. So, we're going to start off with the Cataphractii Terminators and the Drop Pod, both of which are not currently available on the Games Workshop website. So, the Drop Pod is just out of stock. This item is no longer available. I will say that I don't think the Drop Pod is disappearing entirely. What we've actually seen before when that's happened, most recently the Orc stuff, we saw the Orc boys go unavailable, but then they came back. I'm pretty sure the Drop Pod is being repackaged in some way, and the Cataphractii Terminators are in fact doing the same thing. But the Cataphractii Terminators admittedly are a little bit weird in the way that it's happening. So we have seen this before, and this is probably a good time to kind of mention that sometimes when we see things go off the Games Workshop store, they're not actually becoming completely unavailable. They do come back. Now, I have a limited amount of experience with e-commerce stuff. I used to do web design, web development way back, and there is definitely, I vaguely remember at least, a specific piece of software that I once used, or at least maintained for someone, whereby what happened was if you had a product that had a change made to it, it was treated as a new product. So it would disappear off the web store, and then the new version of it would be put on the web store. They may be the same thing, but they weren't the same product in the system. I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, that is what happens with the Games Workshop stuff. So, the Orc stuff specifically, when the Orc boys became unavailable, and they were just oh, you can't buy them anymore, they are out of stock, they are no longer available, they came back, and it was the same stuff, but they had different bases. When the packaging is changed, either the contents or the box itself, or something in there like the basis is changed, they're taken off as that product and then relisted as something else. Now on the front end, it doesn't look any different to us. It's still the same thing. You just get a different size base in the pack. But in the back end of the store, it's technically a new product because it's got a new thing. Or at least that is how I remember things working back when I did that sort of thing. Now, I'm reasonably sure that that is what happens with the Games Workshop store as well, which goes some way to explaining why sometimes we'll see things go, this is no longer available, and then it comes back and it absolutely is available, and it's the same thing as before. It's more a technical listing thing as opposed to an actual interruption in the product. Because, of course, saying no longer available is not the same as saying temporarily out of stock. But quite often this stuff isn't just no longer available because it comes back and there's very little difference. That is my best guess as to why that happens. I have tried to speak to other people who might have more of an idea of this, but I've not yet to hear anything back. But there are a few other people I've seen who kind of have a similar theory as to why that happens specifically. Now, the Cataphractii Terminators are a little bit different, and it's a bit weird with those because they are just gone completely. You cannot find them on the Games Workshop store at all. They're just gone. In fact, the only thing that you can do is go to the page that they were on and get a 404 error. And that's led quite a few people to say to me, are they gone? Are they not selling them? Are they completely removed now? What's happening? Luckily, a chap on Twitter called Nick Ivers, he actually just emailed straight up the US Games Workshop customer support guys and said, hey, where are these again? And according to the email he got back, they are coming back into stock. They are being reboxed as well. Why they are gone completely, why they don't come up in the search, and why their page has just gone from the store completely, that I have no idea about, because I don't think I've really seen that before with a product that has come back. We've seen products go to, no longer available, and then just come back to the shop as though nothing had happened. I don't think I've seen something just disappear whilst being reboxed completely to the point where you can't even see it, to the point where the page that used to be on is now no longer available. I don't think I've seen a product get 404'd before. It's probably happened and I just haven't noticed, but in this specific instance I've not seen that. So that is a little bit weird, but I don't think the Cataphractii Terminators are disappearing entirely. I think they, judging by the response that Nick got from Games Workshop, they are coming back. It's just in a weird way. I keep using the Orc example because it's the most recent one, but the Orc boys went no longer available. There was a bunch of other stuff that was no longer available, and then they all came back and they just had the base size changed in the box. So they were listed essentially a new product, and so the old one was technically gone, but not really, because they were back very shortly after. The thing just disappearing entirely and the page itself being gone is a bit weird, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that customer service was not lying to was not lying to the guy when he asked them, and that we will see them back at some point. When? I've no idea, but yeah. I don't know what they're going to be doing with the drop pod, to be honest, if it does come back. I'm assuming it will, because I'm assuming, again, it's just a change of box, a change of packaging, or a change of contents. What they would change on that, I have no idea. It doesn't have a base or anything like that. Whether they're putting changes to the rules, I don't know. I've got nothing. I have no idea why the drop pod would disappear, except that it's being reboxed. It seems unlikely that Games Workshop would just stop making the drop pod, but we'll see. I'm pretty sure it is coming back. I just can't work out what they would change that would require it to kind of become unavailable for the meantime anyway. If you've got any ideas as to what that might be, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm honestly lost for that one. I've got no clue what they could possibly change in that box. Although it's been a while since I bought a drop pod, so maybe there's something out of date in there that I haven't thought about. The other thing, the interesting thing, Forge World. So Forge World are doing some new stuff for Adeptus Titanicus, which, if you're playing that game, good for you, great. You now have some more stuff, a new Warlord variant, and there's going to be a couple more knights as well, the Castigator Knights. The interesting thing about the Warlord, specifically, because it is said specifically, that it is a new plastic kit. So this is a Forge World model. This is a Forge World, announcement. It's, a preview from Forge World on the Warhammer community site, which I'll link in the description below, obviously. Except it specifically states that this is a new plastic kit for the Warlord Titan with 2 new weapons options. That's interesting to me, because as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Forge World is resin. Forge World might do conversion parts, so they might do variants of different vehicles, so like rhinos and so on, where you have like different doors, and the main kit is plastic, but the extra bits are resin. But Forge World is producing those extra bits in resin to go on the existing plastic model. There's all the Lehman Russ variants and stuff that that Krieg have got. There's things like the rhinos and the various different predators and so on. Those have resin parts on top of the standard plastic kit. This, by the look of it, is Forge World just outright producing a plastic kit of their own, or at least producing plastic conversion parts for a kit that already exists. I don't know if we've seen that, and it does lend a little bit of credence to the idea that Forge World might be shifting into plastic themselves, which, to be honest, is going to be a bit weird, because Games Workshop already, there's one of the distinctions between the two is the material that they traditionally go for, the ones they use for mass production. Forge World has been resin for all of the time, and to move into plastic is going to blur the line, I feel, between Games Workshop and Forge World. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, to be honest, but yeah, that's an interesting side note. Now, if the 2 knights, the 2 Castigator Knights that are coming out as well, if those are also in plastic, that does seem to indicate that Forge World is now just producing fully plastic models. Not just resin upgrades to plastic models or resin only, but actually shifting over, which is going to be interesting to see what happens in the future with that, more than anything. It's not like a particularly amazing thing right now, but it's just interesting to see that change, even if it is only small for the moment. So, yeah, that is what we have today. Just a little bit of news, a little bit of update as to what's going on. Cataphractii Terminators should be back. Drop pod is most likely just being reboxed as well. And Forge World doing a bit of plastic action as opposed to the more traditional resin. I mean, they did in that same post talk about 2 new boards, which are resin. But yeah, just an interesting distinction that was pointed out in the actual article. It's like a new plastic thing. So yeah, a little change of pace there from Forge World, which I was not expecting. Anyway, if you have any ideas as to what the drop pod might be having changed in the box, let me know in the comments down below. Same with the Terminators, actually. Like, if you've got any ideas as to what they might change for those Cataphractii Terminators, for them to become no longer available for a bit, let me know, because I can't think of anything, unless it's another base change, but I think they're up to date on bases anyway. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, feel free to click Patreon, subscribe, video, all of that shit. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want to, and I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.